Welcome to a depressing episode of the Practice Squad, episode 28, a show where we talk about football and make the replacement refs look like pros. I'm your host and fourth string quarterback, Jeremy, joined each and every week by my co-host and backup long snapper, Joseph. How's it going, man? Or actually, I don't even need to ask you that. You're depressed too, right?
Oh yeah, the only consolation is that the Patriots lost.
True.
That's
Yes.
really it.
Which that actually had some important implications, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So we're live right here on YouTube every other Monday night during the regular season, usually at 7:30. But tonight, since our game of the week was Vikings at Seattle, we decided to launch at 8:30. So this is a little bit of an exception. But this week we've got a great show for you. We're going to talk about our two games of the week. The last 2 weeks, we've got some cool highlights to talk about, some playoff implications of this last week's football. We've got our quick cap to talk about the Niners and Dolphins. Some crazy, wacko commentators say the darndest things. And then we're going to close out our show, as always, with our game predictions. So starting right off with our first segment, our games of the week. Our first game of the week for week 12 was Packers at 49ers. This game was a blowout. Classic blowout. The 49ers won in blowout fashion 37-8. I would say this game was over probably before the first quarter, but definitely by the end of the first quarter. The Niners really dominated at every stage of the game, from the opening minutes when Rodgers fumbled and the Niners recovered, leading to a touchdown a couple plays later. The Packers just never had any momentum at all. Rodgers had the worst game of his career by efficiency. I don't know if it's considered. I don't know if that was his worst rated game of the year, or game of his career, but it was worst by efficiency. He was 20 for 33 for 104 yards, which was only 3.2 yards per attempt. That is the worst of his career. One touchdown, zero interceptions, for a 75.8 rating. So on a night where Rodgers plays like that, the Packers just aren't going to win. And he had a quote after the game saying, someone was saying, what does it take to beat a team like the Niners? And he said, like we've got the talent. He basically said we're just as talented as them. We just didn't execute.
That's not
And
true.
I said, no, you guys are like almost a tier below the Niners and a couple of other teams like the Saints. I think this was I'm really glad this game happened, not just because the Niners won, but because everybody counted the Packers as a top tier team in the NFL. And I feel like they fell to kind of a lower tier after that weekend. Like they definitely showed their cracks and showed how they have kind of a bloated record this season. So I felt like that helped bring them a little bit of humble pie. Jimmy was great. He had a 145.8 rating, efficient, careful, accurate. He looked good. And Kittle's first game back after his knee injury, he missed a couple of games, and he was 6 for 6, 129 yards and a touchdown. So great to have him back. He's a huge component of our run game, which seemed to get clicking again after being stagnant for a few games. So great to have him back. This game isn't really worth like a play-by-play. I don't recall any really interesting or notable play calls or like ref fumbles or anything like that. Like it just felt kind of like a blowout win where even if there were a couple of odd calls, it didn't really matter because the Niners were going to win no matter what. Did you have any thoughts on this game, Joseph?
Yeah, Rodgers again looks like he's lost about a step. His offensive line cannot protect him, and since he's lost that step, and he's not as versatile as he is on the run as he has always been in his career, which has made him so amazing. That and terrible clock management at the end of the first half. With I think it was less than 2 minutes. I think it was 1 minute and 51 seconds. The Niners scored 10 points at the end of the first half because of terrible game management and defense by the Packers. They got 2 possessions during those 2 minutes and scored 10 points. I think they went to the half 23 up, 23-0.
It was 23-0.
So that pretty much sealed it right there. Was the end of the first half.
Yeah, for sure.
Packers need to, um, you know, he signed that massive extension. Wasn't it like 4 years, 110 million or something? I don't know. It was a ridiculous amount 2 years ago. I don't know. I mean, unless they have an offensive line to protect him, because their running back and wide receiver core is decent. Their defense is Um, so, but it doesn't matter how good of a defense you have if you're the Packers if you can't work around Aaron Rodgers. So if they can't protect him, then those next 2 years in the contract are going to be a waste.
Right. Yeah, and looking forward to the next few weeks specifically, the Packers won yesterday, and then they play versus Redskins, versus Bears, at Vikings, and at Lions. So, I mean, that to me looks like a 3-1 to close out the season. So they're very likely going to be 12-4, which to me it might be one of the most bloated records in the league
Yes.
right now. Definitely do not feel like they're a 12-4 team. In fact, I didn't even pick them to make the playoffs this year, and there's still a chance that they won't. Which is how crazy good the NFC is this year.
Oh wait, the Packers won't make the playoffs?
It's not a guarantee. If Minnesota wins the division, uh,
I guess if Seattle finishes 12-4, but then yeah, I guess all the tiebreakers
right.
won't. Well, wait a second.
Well,
Who?
if it so at this point mathematically, Green Bay has not locked up a playoff spot. But
That's true. But
but
Minnesota.
if Minnesota wins the division, Green Bay would just fall to the 6th seed because either the Niners or the Seahawks would be the other wild card team. So there isn't
But the
really anybody, to be fair, there really isn't anybody else that's reasonably playing for that spot. I mean, the only team as of like a couple weeks ago that was close were the Rams, but they're not looking like they're going to be able to do it. So anyway, we'll get to a little more of a playoff picture in a little bit, but yeah, they're. I agree with what you said about Rodgers. They kind of have to figure out that situation, and he has lost a step. But I feel like they're. I don't know what it is. It just feels like they've got some talent on that team, but it does feel like they have some better defensive pieces. But what's the difference between the team that they have this year and the team that they had like 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago that was winning all those games and looking really good? Like, is it just Rodgers that he's just kind of a step below what he was?
I don't think it's. Yeah, they're weird, man. Like they're even with that loss getting blown out, like they're still 9-3, but it still feels kind of bloated. So I don't know. It might just be the luck and math has worked out for them in a case by case basis, like a majority of the time, not averaging out. So
Yeah. All right. So I've delayed this as long as I can, but we have to talk about the game that just happened. Um, so I'll just kind of quickly walk through the big kind of the walkthrough of the game chronologically, and then I'll let Joseph give his thoughts first. But man, I gotta say this game. I'm gonna make a bold prediction here because of this game.
oh no.
I'm going to say that the Seahawks are going to lose to Baltimore in the Super Bowl because of this game.
Wow, that must hurt saying that, man.
It does hurt. It cuts deeper than you know. But I can't. The problem is now Seattle takes the division, right? And the Niners are in a much uglier spot to try to retake the division than the Seahawks are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think that the way the Seahawks are playing, and if they get home field advantage, like I think they're a lock to take it the whole way. They just can't lose right now, and it's depressing. The Vikings I think, are a better team that should have been able to win tonight, but they made too many mistakes. I mean, this game started off with Vikings went out. uh, they got a stop, and then they scored a touchdown, and then Seattle came back, scored a touchdown. The Vikings scored, I forget if it was a field goal and then a touchdown, but basically they exchanged scores, and at halftime it ended 17-10 Vikings, and it looked like the Vikings were playing well. It looked like they kind of had a handle on the game. And then they came out in the second half. They got the ball. There was a stop. Then Seattle got the ball. They scored to tie it up. Then I think it was on that. The next drive was when there were the two injuries and the fumble, and Seattle gets the ball. The Seattle kicks a field goal. They go up 20 to 17, and then Seattle gets another touchdown, and it just kind of rolls all the way to Seattle 34, Vikings 17, and the Vikings are looking totally dead in the water at that point. Dalvin Cook had been ruled out of the game because of an injury, and the Seahawks looked like it had all the momentum. And then on the very next drive, Cousins throws a pass on a broken coverage to, I forget the name of the guy, and easy, like 60-yard touchdown. That brings them within 10 points. And then they're able to, I think there was a fumble recovery, and then they scored another touchdown, but then they missed the PAT, so it was 34-30. And then they got like a pretty epic stop on Seattle, forcing them to kick a field goal, 37-30, and they should have had 21 seconds at the end of the game to, minus the kick return seconds, to score, do something, and the guy fumbled on the kick return. So just, you cannot make mistakes like that when you're playing in Seattle, ever. It doesn't matter if the Seahawks quarterback is Tarvaris Jackson. You can't make mistakes like that when you play in Seattle. So, yeah, like I said, it was a game that the Vikings should have been able to win, and they didn't. So I'll let Joseph kind of give his thoughts, and then we'll go back and forth.
Yeah, I only was able to watch the fourth quarter, but you're right. Seattle, they just look so hyped up right now. Like they're not like the Packers. It's not bloated, but they're definitely playing above their average. But they have momentum, and they're looking kind of like the Ravens. So it's interesting to bring up the Ravens Seahawks Super Bowl matchup because on paper, I would say neither of those teams are the top in their conference, but they're playing the best in each conference right now. So if they keep it going, then yeah, they'll make it. So one note about the Packers really quick. I don't know, maybe if you meant division or seed, but they're pretty much a lock for the playoffs unless they because they're 2 ahead of the Rams.
Yeah, no, that's what I clarified, was that they're
okay.
Yeah, I meant to say that they're not a lock to win the division. They could end up falling to the 6th seed, but outside of some wild miracle, they're not gonna lose a playoff spot.
Yeah. But yeah, and then the Vikings though, but looking at the schedules, the Vikings had a little bit tougher, and that loss was big today, so it might just end up being the Packers still get the division. But yeah, for the seeds, you're right. It's tough, man. You and the Seahawks will probably still finish 12-4, but if they beat you at home, which it's kind of hard to think that they won't, then they'll win the division no matter what. So one, when's the last time we've seen 2 12-4 teams in the same division? The only thing I can think of is maybe like the Steelers and the Ravens years ago when they were both good. Outside of that, I can't really recall when that's happened previously. And also, the 12-4 team, being a wild card, whereas like in the AFC, 9 wins will probably get you there, and then 3 for you guys to win the division, have a chance, not a guarantee, to have a chance to win the division and get a top seed bye, you have to beat the Saints this week. It's a must win.
Yeah, I agree. We absolutely have to win this week.
So craziness going on. The Niners, your guys' games the last few weeks. This 4-week stretch has been insane. 3-week stretch has been insane.
Yeah, I mean, it is insane. This game though, like there's some things to talk about this game. So first comment is I don't know. I don't want to make a general statement, but there were some definitely iffy ref situations in this game. First of all, they missed a false start by Seattle in the third quarter. Spots have been iffy, and this one actually, if they had carried through an incorrect call, would have benefited the Vikings. Pete Carroll rightfully challenged a bad ball spot, and then the interception by Trey Flowers should have been a PI. And everybody was calling it this super athletic play, but he was, grabbing the jersey, diving in front of the guy way before the ball got to him, and that should have been a PI. And I think that interception led to a touchdown. So that would have had a huge impact on the game. Did have a huge impact on the game. I don't understand why opponents can't play the second half against Seattle. Even on the road, unless a team is up by like 3 touchdowns at half, they're probably going to lose. I mean, if teams are good, they'll just do enough to make you feel like they're alive, and then Seattle will clutch it at the end. And that's exactly what they did tonight. And they've done this so many times where they'll let teams kind of like back in the game. And I'm sure it gives some Seattle fans a heart attack too, but when you win 90% of those games, honestly, you shouldn't have that kind of heart attack. I don't get it. I just don't understand the game plan. Like, there's got to be something. There's a meta to this. Right? Like, you go into Seattle. Do the guys in the film room in practice, do they talk about the fact that Seattle is way better in the second half? Like, do they prepare for that mentally? Is that something that the team leaders step up and hype against? Or do they just sort of play as if they're another team that kind of just does their thing? Right? I feel like that's something that has to be prepared against, even though that's not like a play or a specific play call or a specific player. It's a factor. It's a fact about the way Seattle plays and wins games that has to be taken care of. And I don't know how you do it. I'm not a coach, but it's something that should be discussed in some manner. Did you see the tipped pick 6 by Anthony Harris?
No, that was earlier.
Oh, you gotta watch the highlight later on it. It was amazing. It was like tipped twice, and then it landed on Harris's hands as he was running back, and he got a pick 6 early on in the game. And that was the moment where I thought, oh yeah, the Vikings can win this game, but then they didn't.
I saw that incredible touchdown catch by Rudolph.
Yeah, Kyle Rudolph was great in this game, man. He was so good. I feel so bad for him that they lost, because he did. He did everything humanly possible to keep that keep them in the game. He was
4 of 6 for 50 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, but that doesn't describe, like, he had several clutch catches, and yeah, he played really well. I
heard a stat that said that was his 36th career touchdown in the red zone.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, it's like, wait a second. He's been playing since 2011, and he's a tight end, and he's not like Travis Kelce. Like, that's pretty amazing.
So yeah, he's averaging about 4 to 5 red zone touchdowns a year so far.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
4.5. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm getting kind of sick of this. We need to go to our highlights.
Yeah, I know. But I'll lead us into our highlights section by saying that Seattle faked a punt on 4th and 2, and there was another, not a fake punt, but there was another special play call by our friendly neighborhood Dolphins that I'm sure Joseph wants to talk about.
Yeah, so if people remember that horrendous play call that the Colts did a few years ago against the Patriots, where someone snapped the ball behind one person and two guys were just waiting there to tackle him. Apparently, so the Dolphins pretty much ran the same play, but at the goal line. Um, but the Dolphins did it correctly. So apparently, I learned that the kicker explained against the Patriots that they weren't supposed to snap the ball because then obviously it would have been a dumb play. They were trying to draw the Patriots offsides or whatever. Um, anyways, but yeah, they had a great trick play where they're down at the end zone and one guy hiked it to another, and he quickly just ran and basically did almost like it was an ugly throw. He's a punter. You can't expect him to look pretty when he throws it, but basically just almost did like a side shovel pass over a guy defender in the end zone for a touchdown, and yeah, we won. I mean, I went against my guts. I picked the Dolphins earlier on to win in the week, and then I ended up going against them. I think either Saturday night or Sunday morning before the game, and I regretted that. So, big win. We stepped up. I guess we're not tanking, though. I really want to get Joe Burrow. I fear that the Bengals will be worse and get him. And then another. I don't know if you
Oh,
saw.
the Bengals are definitely going to be worse.
Yes, I know. And we play them in like week 16, but that probably won't matter because we're 2 games ahead of them, and yeah, I think we have a more difficult. Uh,
Hey, but at least they won this week.
at least they won this week, so we'll see. They'll probably get the number one quarterbacks. I don't know what we're gonna do if we're sitting 2, 3, or 4. The other teams don't need a quarterback. The Redskins and the Giants. So curious to see what we'll do. For the Thanksgiving games, just want to quickly mention how the Bills are somehow 9-3 and like look good. Um, And then the end of the Saints Falcons game. If anyone saw that, now one of them didn't count per se, even though it was a bad call on the refs, but functionally 3 consecutive onside kick attempts by
Yeah.
the Falcons were recovered, which is amazing. So the first one, it was really 2 in the same possession, but one was called a penalty incorrectly. And then they scored a field goal and then did it again. And if they drove down and got a touchdown, they could tie the game, but they didn't. So that was exciting to see at the end. I've never seen 2 in a game, and I wonder how many are recovered a year. I bet it's no more than 5 onside kicks a year. I'm gonna look this up actually.
Oh, I think this year so far there's only been like 2 successful onside kicks.
And then,
The Bears got one. I don't remember who it was against, but they got one like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
yeah, so far there's been 3 this year, and um,
Including those two.
including the 2.
Okay, yeah. The third one was the Bears.
Yeah, so it says here they have an 8% success rate, which compared to the 23%. Wow, 23. Oh, wait, a second. 23% conversion rate. Okay, I'm looking. The 3 out of whatever is correct. Ignore the last stats. I need to get more details on that. But essentially, I know the rules changed several years ago. I want to say in the past 4 to 8 years, the rules changed where you couldn't stack up as many
Yeah, you
guys on
could you
the
can't
side,
stack up as many guys on one side.
and that's changed. That's basically dramatically changed the results. I'm like, it's already hard as it is. Why do they have to knock it down? Now it's almost. I feel like it's almost too hard because the Falcons one was an anomaly. The Saints did poorly cover those onside kicks, at least 2 of them. So, any other highlights? Let's see here.
So the Patriots lost to the
Oh yeah.
Texans.
Oh, that reminds me. Okay, project here. So we talked about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers not having bad pass protection. No one's going to hear this from the Texans, but if they ever do, I'm going to rebuke you right now. You absolutely must get offensive line protection for Deshaun Watson. I am sick and tired of seeing Deshaun running around for his life on almost every play of every game that he's played in his career. He is sacked so many times, and he escapes a lot of the times. He makes great throws. He's shown that he's already been like a top 7-ish quarterback since he started. He has the potential to be a top 3 quarterback every year for the next decade. And part of that's being hindered because his offensive line is garbage. Now, it makes sense why the Texans had a garbage O-line when they started, and David Carr got killed for all those years. But you've been in the league now for like 15 years. Figure it out. Your defense is okay. With or without Watt, you can handle it. You have a decent running game. You have by far one of the best wide receiver cores in the game, easily top 3 or 4, right? Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, and Hopkins. Like, that's really tough to beat. You could have a solid offensive core for the next like 6 to 8 years. Use it. Invest. I'm tired of seeing Watson running around, and he's going to get injured one of these times. He's going to lose a step in his legs. And, like they're 8-4 right now. They've won some we didn't expect. They've lost some we didn't expect. They're playing, I think, exactly where they are in terms of their record. And they could be even better. So figure it out, Houston. This is embarrassing.
So to be fair to the Texans, though, they did trade for they picked up Laramie Tunsil, and Stills from the Dolphins earlier on. So I mean, they did try to make some moves to protect Watson, but yeah, they obviously haven't done enough.
That's all I have for the week. Gardner Minshew is going to be the starter for the remainder of the season. They're going to bench Nick Foles.
I think that's the right call.
Yeah, kind of crazy, but yeah, I just saw that in the news. So
we thought Nick Foles was going to be the savior of the Jaguars, but he ended up not quite being that.
Yeah. All right, well, I keep saying this, but last one. The Titans. Ryan Tannehill decides to be good on the Titans now and like bring them into the playoffs.
Give it some time. He'll crap out at some point. Just give it some time.
I hope so, man. I mean, the Colts. I thought they should have won that game. Like the Colts, that was disappointing. And if the Titans get a 6 seed, man, with Ryan Tannehill.
Well, okay, so he was 17 for 22, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. Okay, so he was okay. I mean, he wasn't like great, but
true. But he's been clutch the last few games. Like he's had a few clutch moments to.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I mean, Derrick Henry's playing really well.
Yeah.
So I think that's a bigger part of it. But yeah, no, I think the Titans are in a weird place because they're 7-5 now, which is really unexpected. I was not expecting them to be in the race at all, but they're
7th seed. The Steelers are just ahead of them because of a tiebreak.
Well, yeah, but as far as but if you look at the division goes, though, they're only 1 game back from the Texans.
That is true.
So
let's look at their remaining schedules really quick.
Yeah, so the Titans have at Raiders versus Texans versus Saints at Texans. Oh, that's rough.
So the Texans have both Titan games and at Buccaneers. The Texans have a little bit easier. Oh, and they have Broncos at home. So
okay, the Texans have a little bit easier.
Yeah, they're already a game up. Let's assume they split the Titan series. They're a game up, and their other 2 games are a little bit easier. So Texans will probably nudge that one out. But yeah, and then the Steelers, man, 7-5, and their remaining schedule: they're at Cardinals, Bills, at Jets, at Ravens. If they win 2 of those, that should be enough, which I can see them doing. In fact, my brother sent me a text.
Wait, but hold on, though. Do the Titans have the tiebreaker over the Steelers?
No, the Steelers have it right now.
What is the tiebreaker, though?
It looks like conference games.
Okay, because if the Titans lose both of their games to the Texans but beat...
Oh, whereas the Steelers have that Cardinals game that's out of conference.
Yeah, the Titans could lose to the Saints and beat the Raiders.
Yeah,
and if they won one of the Texans games, that would be 2-1 in the conference, whereas the Steelers, I imagine the Steelers will probably lose to the Ravens.
Yes. So that means the Steelers have to win both of their other games.
They need to beat the Bills.
Yeah, they need to beat the Bills. They'll probably beat the Jets. And if they beat the Cardinals, that'll almost seal it because that'll give them 10 wins. But if they win 2, they have to win the middle 2 and lose to the Cardinals and the Ravens.
Right.
Because of that conference issue.
And then, that would lock them a spot.
My brother, he sent me a text. This is neat because it goes over some stats. So this is referring to the Steelers. Over their last 10 games, the Steelers rank 1st in the NFL in takeaways, 28, 1st in QB hits, 78, first in passes defended, 65, first in forced fumbles, 17, which is ridiculous, first in fumble recoveries, 13, second in interceptions, 15, second in sacks, 38, and tied for third in defensive touchdowns, 3. So that defense is killing it. They're essentially one of the best, if not the best defense, the past 10 games anyways. But
85 Bears, anyone?
Yeah, but that offense, man, I mean, without Brown, Le'Veon Bell, obviously Big Ben being out, and then Rudolph being okay, but then now benched. So
yeah, that's their one. Yeah, that's a big issue, right? That's the difference between them being like eking their way into the playoffs and being a Super Bowl contender. I think is that their injuries and recent trades, lost acquisitions.
But hey, with those stats, if that's reflecting a real thing and not just hyped up thing, I think it is real too. And since Mika has been on the team from the Dolphins, heck, I almost want to get another pick back for him because he's been a stud for them.
Can I ask one question about the Steelers though?
Yeah.
To every Steelers fan listening right now, why couldn't you guys beat Seattle earlier in the season?
Hey, at least they gave you a free win.
Well, okay. I mean, that would have been huge if they had won that game. Oh man. Pete Carroll did get that falsely overturned PI in that game though. So I can't discredit them entirely, but yeah, that would have been nice. All right, yeah, so final highlight to point out, Pro Bowl vote for Fred Warner, linebacker for the 49ers. Vote Fred Warner.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move into our quick cap. So I'll start with the Niners. We already talked about the Packers game, so the only other game is the game at the Ravens yesterday morning. Potential, although like I said, I'm not predicting it, but potential Super Bowl preview.
And rematch.
I truly believe right now those were the two best teams in their respective conferences. The Ravens won with a last-second field goal, 20-17. That was the Ravens' lowest point total of the season in wins or losses. Lowest point total. I felt like ultimately it came down to game management, more than it did execution. I thought the Niners left some points on the board at the end of the first half. They were a little too conservative. They pulled a Broncos, and then there was a 4th and 1, just impossible pass play. They needed to convert that 4th down to burn more time off the clock, and instead they went into shotgun and gave away the fact that they were going to pass and tried to pass between the tackles to George Kittle, who was well covered, and the ball got tipped, turnover on downs, and then the Ravens go down the field and kick their field goal and win. So really close, very competitive game against the two best teams, and the Niners couldn't quite pull it off, but it was East Coast, 10 a.m., raining against the hottest team in the NFL with Lamar Jackson. They've had a really tough time handling mobile quarterbacks, and they lost to a last-second field goal. Like I've been hearing all week, there's no such thing as a moral victory, and I agree this was not a moral victory, but if you're going to lose, this was the way to lose. So I was hurt, but not nearly as hurt as I was against the game, in the game against the Seahawks a couple weeks ago. I think on a neutral field, the Niners absolutely have a chance. So, great game to watch though. If you didn't get a chance to watch it and have access to it, go back and watch, because that was one of the best, most competitive, exciting games of the entire season up to this point.
Yep.
So, Joseph, I don't know if you have any comments about Dolphins at Browns.
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. But you made your comment about the that special play against the Eagles. I watched the replay of it. That was pretty awesome. man, the Eagles are really tanking. They're really flushing themselves down the toilet in the second half of this season.
Dude, the NFC least, like the Cowboys and Eagles are competing for who wants to lose that division.
Yeah, the Cowboys choked that game at home against the Bills last week, and then the Eagles lose on the road to the Dolphins, who are in the bottom 5 teams in the NFL. Wow. Yeah, it's really like they're fighting to see who can not win, not fighting to see who can win in that division.
Yeah, who can win the division with the lowest record?
Yeah. I seriously think that whoever wins that division is going to be 8-8.
Oh yeah, no, same here. And I bet they still play each other. I bet they still have a game left against each other. So
I think they do. They do. Okay, so that's our quick cap segment. Let's go ahead and move into commentators say the darndest things. The only thing that can brighten you up after an evening where Seattle plays winning football. So I'll go ahead and read my quote first. So my quote was, in fact, from the game tonight. Another quote from our guy that's probably going to get fired at the end of the year, Booger McFarland. He said, "You get the feeling that Russell Wilson is underappreciated around the league." And then he proceeded to talk about how, like, oh, he's not really, he hasn't gotten the MVP vote and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, the only thing people have talked about for the last 6 weeks has been how Russell Wilson should be MVP. How is he underappreciated?
Wait, why is he gonna get fired? He's being for real?
Booger McFarland?
Yeah.
He's probably the most, in the time that I've been interested in football, the last decade or so, he's the worst commentator on TV that the NFL has seen by a long stretch. I mean, it's more wishful thinking that he'll get fired than it. But I mean, I don't ever want a guy to lose his job. But I think that there are plenty of other guys that could do it better. He's not good.
So did he No, he didn't announce the Ravens-Niners game then, right?
No, he didn't. That was a special crew for the morning.
Okay, so mine's from the Ravens-Niners game, and it's Lamar Jackson did something that was remarkable, I'm sure. And one announcer says, Lamar Jackson, he has a PhD in quarterbacking.
Oh, I remember that. And then didn't he say something like, there isn't a situation that he hasn't seen or something like that?
I don't remember, but that was just, okay, let's do a quick Lamar Jackson analysis, and then let's get to our predictions. So
our analysis mainly being the fact that Lamar Jackson has almost zero history as a quarterback.
Lamar Jackson, very good. Lamar Jackson is most often compared to Michael Vick. Fast, electric, has a lot of rushing yards.
Opportunistic. Dynamic.
Boy. He's going to have you take the best that Michael Vick was as a passer and as a rusher, which in no way occurred in the same season, and you combine that, and Lamar Jackson is going to do better than both of those and more efficiently this year. That's great. Combined, he's probably going to end up around 42 to 4,600 total yards, rushing and passing combined. Probably in the low 30s to high 30s touchdowns. Will be really good. Will be efficient, and should deserve talk for MVP. Right? Him and Russell Wilson are tier 1. Cousins is still up there, and then it kind of drops off after that. But please, can we stop this nonsense of he's done everything. We've never seen this before. He's just so amazing. It's like, yes, he's very good. He's better than the comparison that we have with Michael Vick. But this, yeah, I'm just, what I'm about to say. So it's just too much. So
yeah, to be fair, I personally think that Lamar Jackson should be considered for MVP more than Russell Wilson at this moment.
Okay, well, they're both 1-2. I'll say that. Regardless of where you put them, they're 1-2.
Yeah, they are 1-2, and I think Jackson has basically equivalent stats to Wilson in the air, and then you add all of his rushing stuff, and I think he passes Wilson.
And one thing to add that so people don't think that I'm bashing on him because I'm not putting this in context, he has gotten better. He's improved. That's something that I mentioned early on in the season and said, oh, Jackson's going to be fun to watch. I think he's going to improve. And if he does, watch out. Those things are all true. I'm just trying to put in the right context of the magnitude of how great we're saying he is. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. And I'll admit my error, which was last year when Jackson wasn't playing all that well for the Ravens, and they put him in instead of Joe Flacco. I was like, I wasn't sure that he was the answer, and I thought their defense is getting pretty good, so maybe they're going to ride the defense to a playoff spot. But it turns out their defense has played pretty well, but they just have an amazing rushing offense, and he has really tightened up his skills, both passing and rushing. And I'd say his most phenomenal technique right now is his ability to fool defenses about who has the ball. Like, he's really good at faking handoffs and making players think the running back has the ball when he actually has the ball. He did it to the Niners in the first half yesterday, and he's been doing it all over the place. You can tell he's obviously put a ton of time practicing that. So, yeah, the thing about him is I just don't know is that something that over the course of the next 2 to maybe 3 seasons is going to slow down as teams kind of figure it out. Are they going to morph are the Ravens going to morph him into more of a pocket passer like the Seahawks did with Wilson, who kind of started off running that high rush offense and then behind the big offensive line, and then sort of morphed him into a pocket passer? We'll see. I mean, you got to think that with Jackson running like a running back, at some point he's going to get hurt, right? And I think once he reaches that contract phase, I think that there may be a turning point in the way that he uses the ball. And that's exactly what happened with Kaepernick and with Wilson, like two guys that rush really well. They reached their contract years, and then they just started becoming more pocket passers. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens, but it's exciting to watch these young guys in these early years where, it's not at all about the money, and they're out there doing their thing. It is really fun to watch. Just not against the Niners. Don't do it against the Niners again. All right, so let's move into our final segment of the evening, our game predictions. This last week was another kind of poopy week for both Joseph and I. I finished 8-8, and Joseph finished 7-9. I don't know, man. The middle of this season has been so rough. There's been so many upsets and crazy games. But as it stands right now, I was 18-12 the last 2 weeks. Joseph was 17-13. I am 121, 70-1 for a 63.4% accuracy, and Joseph is 116, 75-1. And I didn't calculate the percentage, but it's a couple percentage points below that. So this upcoming week, we've got a full slate of 16 games. There are now no longer any buys. Our first game is Cowboys at Bears, and I picked Bears.
Same.
Okay.
You have Panthers at Falcons. I'm going Falcons.
Ooh, okay, I picked Panthers on this one. This was a close one, though.
Yeah.
Next is Ravens at Bills. Another close one, but I went Ravens.
Same. Bengals at Browns. Going Browns.
Same. Broncos at Texans. I'm going Texans.
Same. Lions at Vikings. Going Vikings.
Same. And Redskins at Packers. Going Packers.
Same. Colts at Bucks. Really tough one. Going Bucks.
Yeah, same. I agonized over that one for a little while too, but picking Bucks. Dolphins at Jets. I have a feeling what you're doing here, but I'm going Jets on this.
So I struggled. I'm going Jets.
Okay. wouldn't be a surprise at all to see the Dolphins win this.
Yeah.
This is probably garbage game of the week.
Yeah, and then to game of the week.
Yes.
Metaphorically and literally, Niners at Saints. Really tough, bro. Sorry, man. It's at going Saints.
I knew you were going to do that, and I came to terms with it before the show started. I'm picking Niners.
And I feel you. That's honestly, I think this is a 52-48, like percentage-wise. And if it was flipped, like if it was in Niners, it would be Niners probably like 56-44. So,
okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, I'm mainly basing this based off of how they were able to play against the Ravens. They do much better against quarterbacks that are more still in the pocket, and I think the Ravens might be an all-around better team than the Saints. So I don't know. It's going to be a good game, but I think the Niners are a better team and have a slight edge. So we'll see if that's offset by the home field or not. So the next one is Chargers at Jaguars. This was the stay away from this at all costs if you're betting game of the week. The Chargers, who find new ways to lose games every week, and the Jaguars, who have been one of the most pathetic teams this year. I went Jaguars just because they have the home field and they're getting Minshew back.
Titans at Raiders. This is another one to stay away from.
Yes.
This one's tough. I'm going Titans because I think they have a tiny bit of momentum.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going Raiders on this. The next one is Chiefs at Patriots. And man, after that Texans loss, I wanted to pick Chiefs, but I think because it's at home, I got to go with Patriots.
I'm going Chiefs.
Okay.
I think Brady is starting to diminish a little bit. The Patriots are showing that, their quote unquote best defense of the year was against mostly bad teams. We already went over that stat a few weeks ago on the record of their opponents. The Chiefs have some momentum. I think that Mahomes is going to get better, and it's going to be a revenge game from last year. So it's going to be close. And again, I won't be shocked, if Tom Brady pulls it out, especially at home. But I'm going Chiefs.
Okay. And then Steelers at Cardinals. I've got Steelers for this one.
Same. Seahawks at Rams. Seahawks.
Same. And then Giants at Eagles. Another gross game, but I'm going Eagles.
Same. So we differed by 4.
Yes. Panthers at Falcons. Niners at Saints. Titans at Raiders. And Chiefs at Patriots. So our game of the week, like Joseph said, is Niners at Saints. That is next Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Like I said, no buys this week, so we've got a full slate of games. Exciting last quarter of the regular season, guys. Only 1 quarter of games left. 4 more games left. How crazy is that? This season has flown by, but we're in for some super exciting football over the next few weeks as we find out who are going to be the top 6 teams in each conference. So with that is a wrap for our show. If you enjoyed tonight's episode or any of our past episodes, please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, as those are free ways for you to support our show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Practice Squad and at Neuralizer_. Just as a reminder, if you've missed past episodes, you can watch or listen to them right here on my YouTube channel. They upload immediately after the show ends. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Peace.